Ms. Boone, court sentences you to life.
Welcome back. While Sarah Boone gets familiar with the prison handbook, we're heading back to court with Dr. Harper. Dr. Harper viewed Sarah through a very interesting lens. But did her testimony help or hurt the circus just a scintilla? Let's watch Dr. Harper dodge questions like the Matrix.
Good afternoon, Dr. Harper.
Good afternoon.
So you have done some evaluation work on battered spouse syndrome for a prosecution in the past?
No.
All right. Have you done insanity evaluations for the prosecution in the past?
I have been called to testify about that.
Typically, when it comes to an affirmative defense, such as battered spouse evidence and insanity, what is your understanding and your expertise?
What is my understanding of the issue? Oh.
Judge, the question...
Legal objection.
Objection?
Legal grounds.
He asked a question about battered spouse and
Approach.
insanity.
So even though they don't acknowledge trauma, you can still identify it as a clinician.
But still...
Like, what do I need to plan on? I promise you, on my son's life, it was not intentional. I promise you.
Now, you brought up veterans. Is something common with PTSD with veterans something like firecrackers may set them off because it reminds them of acts of war?
That's right.
You're not suggesting to the jury today that if somebody who returns with PTSD from service and hears firecrackers is justified in going outside and just shooting bullets everywhere, correct?
No, that's not what I said.
I'm not saying you did.
Okay. I understand what you're saying, yes.
So you would agree that, hypothetically, if somebody is running down their partner, saying negative things about them, telling them they're unattractive, telling them things that would potentially hurt their feelings, that could be an element of control of a verbally abusive relationship.
It could.
Okay. Propping one up, hypothetically saying, I'm the best thing that has ever happened to you, you'll never do better than me. Is that a potential component of the control that one in an abusive relationship might exert over an intimate partner?
Yes, to try to not encourage their partner to leave them, yeah.
Considering gifts, hypothetically, that one partner has given to another partner, but considering it still to be your property because you gave it to them, is that a form of potential exertion of control over an intimate partner? When you give somebody, hypothetically, a bike, but still consider it your own bike?
I mean, I don't think that's strong evidence of that. I think that it does happen in relationships and people do that in general, but I wouldn't say that's like really specific to this.
How about hypothetically exerting control over your intimate partner's identification papers, such as a birth certificate?
So that can happen. People will hide things that are required for work. For instance, like your driver's license or things like that.
Now I'm asking yes or no questions. If Mr. Owens would like you to elaborate further, he's going to have that opportunity in a little bit? Mm-hmm. Okay. Hypothetically, if one partner destroys another partner's belongings, is that a potential example of exerting control in a relationship?
Yes.
Thank you. Hypothetically, is threatening to or actually using legal process as a threat against your intimate partner in a potential indicia of controlling your partner? For instance, X, Y, or Z, or I'm going to get you arrested.
Yes, I would agree that happens.
Now, I assume you would agree that this cycle of violence that we've described, the tension building, the blow up, and then the honeymoon phase, you would agree that just one of those cycles could be enough to give somebody a traumatic experience if they took it as a traumatic experience.
Yes.
The defendant described her first date with Mr. Torres to you, did she not?
She did.
And at the time of this first date, they had obviously just met that night at a bar, correct?
Right.
They were not financially intertwined, correct?
That's right.
They shared no children in common.
That's right.
They did not live together.
Correct.
And after this description that she provided you, which included him smashing her phone, correct?
Yes.
Hitting her, first time she'd ever been hit in her life, correct?
Yes.
And making her crouch in like a fetal position on the porch for several hours to the point where it hurt her back, correct?
Yes.
Threatened to sodomize her,
Correct.
and she described that she was all bruised up, correct?
Yes.
After that, this is the first time she had ever met him, correct?
I believe so. Yes.
There was a second date, correct?
Yes.
Despite not having any of that intertwinement that we went through prior to this description, correct?
That's right.
Now, there's a difference.
There's a difference in intertwinement. The pattern can be exactly the same.
Now, of course, there are many different reasons why somebody will stay in a relationship that, when perceived from the outside, others would say is abusive, correct?
That's right.
The defendant described that she felt like she was making Mr. Torres a better person, correct?
That's right.
A better father, correct?
Yes. Right.
A better ex-husband.
With phone calls, yes.
And she would tell him to call his children,
That's right.
make sure that he sent them Christmas gifts,
Yes.
and make sure he sent his ex-wife money when she asked, correct?
Yes.
So you would agree those are indicia, or indicators, sorry.
Understand?
I know you know them. That perhaps she wasn't necessarily financially dependent on Mr. Torres, correct? I'm not saying conclusion, but those are indicators if you're saying, please spend your money elsewhere, that I don't need your money, correct?
No, because even if there was money that was needed by Ms. Boone, her tendency to put the needs of her partner before her would direct her to do exactly that, like make him better, make him have the availability to visit his children, send them presents, even if she's the one that needed the money.
And in her perspective, Mr. Torres needed her to do this to make him a better person, correct?
I believe that, yes.
How many years of her adult life did she describe working?
I don't think she gave it a specific quantity. We just went through a variety of her jobs that she had in the past.
And, you know, she was low 40s when she met you 4 years ago?
That's right.
So she had been 18 for probably about 24 years. Did she give you a 24, right? 24 plus 18, 42?
Oh, you said for 24 years, and that's why I was confused. You can't be 18 for 24 years, but
Did
24 years ago, I would agree.
Did her work history kind of flesh out to be 24 years is what I'm asking?
I'm not certain.
February 24th of 2020, the child was scheduled to be picked up by Miss Boone, correct?
That's right.
Despite everything that she was aware of and what Mr. Brian Boone was aware of, correct?
Right.
And you saw in her police interview that she swore on the life of her son that she was telling them the truth, correct?
Yes.
Yes?
I promise you,
Approach.
on my son's life, it was not intentional.
She's quote unquote
I
swore on
promise
her
you.
child's life that it was not
On Lucas's
intentional.
life.
That, correct?
Before I answer, I'd like you to direct me to that part of her interview. So
I'll strike it with you. It's on video. October of 2018, when she ended up going to Aspire, when she was found stumbling by police, she had a breath alcohol of 0.185.
I'm reacting to your description of her stumbling by police. I know she approached police for help. So, yes, I'm with you.
Okay. She described that as June of 2018?
That's what I said in my deposition. That
Nothing mentioned about any problems with somebody named Mr. Jorge or George Torres, correct?
you're talking about January?
Yes, ma'am. Were there any indications in the photographs of injuries on her consistent with being dragged down the stairs of carpet?
I didn't see inside her scalp, so I didn't see photos of inside, her hair follicles and this area of her head. On her outward body, there were no indications of that. She did not describe herself as intoxicated originally when we discussed this. So
the answer is no. She did not describe herself as
intoxicated, right. So she did not remember taking the videos of the suitcase, or the incident in the suitcase, until she was at the interrogation room, I guess, and then they were going through them with her. Then she recalled that.
a certain percentage?
She said that it wasn't zipped all the way.
Okay. And still then, that was funny to the two of them at first, correct?
That's right.
And then there came a point in time where Mr. Torres was getting mad about being zipped in the suitcase.
She told me that he was getting mad. Yes.
And that, in turn, made her mad.
That's right.
You didn't find it important to learn what specifically he said that made her mad, correct?
I don't agree that I didn't find it important.
Okay. Then explain. Why wouldn't you ask that question?
Because as a person who is traumatized is describing their experience, as a trained clinician, you will allow open-ended discussion of that experience. And so it's not an interrogation. You don't go asking confrontational questions at the time of their first narration.
Well, you had 9 visits with her. Did you follow up on your 9th visit?
I asked her different questions about
Did you ever ask
be
her
confrontational.
Did you ever ask her specifically in any of your 9 visits with her what it was that he said that made her mad?
No.
She never described him doing anything to make her mad, but it was words, correct?
Right.
And once she got mad, she decided that she was going to leave him in there for 2 minutes.
That's right.
Not 3, not 1, but 2, correct?
That's what she said.
Did you ask her why she didn't let him out of the suitcase after 2 minutes?
Yes, I did actually ask her that.
And what did she say?
She said that when she was able to unzip it, it was not some significant thing. She was able to unzip it easily.
She described to you, Miss Boone being the she, that she was helpful to the police?
Yes.
Do you promise everything you told us was the
Do you
truth?
consider,
That
do you
it
agree with
wasn't
that
intentional?
assessment, that she was helpful to the police?
In the sense that she was having conversations with them without counsel, I would consider that helpful to the police.
Do you think lying to the police is helpful to the police's investigation?
No.
Do you agree that she was not truthful with them?
Yes, I think that I would agree with that.
And when she described getting Mr. Torres out of the suitcase, she described stretching his little legs?
Yes.
That's why I haven't
And
slept.
she stated to you there was no fight that day, correct?
That's right.
Because that's all I see.
Physical.
Wanted him to be uncomfortable.
I need to clarify. Physical fight.
Right.
Yes.
And then there was a description of a bat. And her using
Not my
it,
intention.
Right?
Poke.
Poke. And so, did you get an opportunity to review the autopsy photos?
Yes.
Did you question her when she said that she only poked him with the bat?
No.
Not in any of your 9 visits?
Did I question her about whether Can you just repeat the question? I want to make sure I'm answering it correctly. Okay.
Did you ever, in considering the autopsy report and the autopsy photographs that you reviewed,
Yes.
when she said that she nudged or poked with the baseball bat, did you ever question her about that, given the severity of his injuries?
So to answer correctly, I did question her
What did she say?
about how she used the bat. And she reiterated that she poked and she gestured what she meant. So I did question her about that.
And did
I object.
Approach. Any redirect examination?
Briefly, Judge.
Yes, sir.
The state attorney talked to you about power and control, that an abusive partner will use power and control over the victim in a intimate partner violence situation.
Yes.
Threatening someone's dogs, is that an example of someone using control?
Yes.
Taking car keys from the other party, is that an example of control?
If they're withholding, yes.
Taking a phone and withholding a phone,
Yes.
a debit card,
Yes.
destroying a home, TVs, putting holes in the wall,
Yes.
not helping pay the rent and other bills.
So I would say that that could be withholding, that could go under coercive control of another person.
What about violating a court order to have no contact with the person?
Yes.
I don't have any other questions.
Any redirect examination?
No, Judge.
All right, thank you.
One question. Dr. Harper, I didn't ask you to review those records, did I?
To my knowledge, she's never really been a drug person. She's big on alcohol, but I don't think she's ever done. I mean, I think she told me like one time, like back before we got divorced, that at I don't know, this bar thing over there across the street near the Walgreens, whatever it's called.
Okay.
I've never been there, but somebody gave her a little bit of cocaine, like 2 years ago or something like that. But I've never known her to do drugs.
She bonded easily with Mr. Boone, and you can see that there are elements of that early difficulty with her relationships because she took on a parentified role, in my opinion, during that relationship. I think that that led to some behaviors that she carried over into her relationship with Mr. Torres, in that she's parentified around him and acting more like a parent-child relationship. It is my opinion that she called for help, but when people got tired of her not leaving Mr. Torres, they stopped responding to those calls. And basically, Ms. Boone handled things on her own. And as other people with healthier boundaries probably would have left, she being acting out the pattern of intimate partner violence did not leave. I do think that that is a condition that is still existent even while she's in jail. It's something that she needs treatment for because those triggers are unmitigated, meaning that she hasn't really had the kind of therapy to address them and reduce her adrenaline and anxiety responses when she thinks of past instances of traumatic events that have happened to her.